Okay, hi guys. So I wanted to do a video kind of depicting a timeline that I made for Sakura. Um, I competed with her this year.
Next up we have Colie from the Nerds with Needles as Sakura-hime from Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles.
Sakura from the Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles. It was one of her many array of outfits. It was a complicated piece. Definitely challenged me. There's a lot of things I've never done before, so I got to do it for first times. So I love the piece slash hate the piece. But it came out really good. I'm actually quite proud of it, even though I didn't win anything. But I was close. The judges at Anime Boston this year, or maybe last year, I don't honestly know when they started it, but they started giving feedback on what you can improve, any other commentary, stuff like that, which is awesome. It is amazing as a cosplayer to get that kind of feedback back, especially if you're competing. So mine was working on my rolling hems, or working on hems and rolling seams, which, to be fair, I knew I needed to do. I've never done them before slash ran out of time. So it's something going forward that I know I have to work on. The other thing they said I should work on is my zipper. And I really hate putting in zippers because I never know how to do it properly because I've never really tried. If I can get out of using a zipper, putting clasp or snaps or something else, totally would go through and waste the extra hours putting in that stuff versus trying to put in a zipper. So my zipper was not center, it was slightly to the left. Maybe by like a whole inch or two. Maybe not two, maybe like an inch and a half at most. So I knew that going into the competition. But I told them, this is my first time doing zippers. I've been procrastinating learning how to do them, and now I'm paying for it. And I understand it's not proper, but I did it last, so everything else had already been put together. So, for shame on me, I should have known better. So, I have a timeline of the amount it took me and what process I went through for this outfit. And where I've been really bad at posting on the Nerds with Needle webpage, I figured I would do this video and kind of give you a very kind of quick overview of everything that's happened. I have it all on my Instagram, but I've never posted any of this onto the Nerds with Needle page, so I'm kind of trying to backtrack a bit. Some of the information's a little wonky, and I don't remember all of it. Because honestly, it was a 4-month process of building this outfit. Well, I didn't realize my list was so long. So I started spray painting. I started ordering all of my beads last November. Yes, last November. Somewhere in that time frame, in that month. And I ordered 250 large wooden teardrop beads off of Etsy. Then I ordered a count of 50 smaller teardrop beads for 2 reasons. One, because she has in her dress these looping cords that go around her sides, 2 on each side. They've got, I don't know, a little over an inch teardrop shaped bead kind of looking thing. Same thing happens in her headdress. So I needed 2 different sizes teardrop beads. I couldn't tell you, I know it was a long time, but I couldn't tell you how long I searched for those beads. So I've got them. And then procrastinated until the end of December to spray paint them. Anime Boston was middle to end of March. So not a good time to start a competition piece. Should have started it a couple months before. Hindsight's 2020, I know. So I started spray painting, and I didn't start working on the skirt of my dress until about a month later. I think it was about the end of January, maybe, middle to end, that I started actually physically working on the dress. So, started working on the flowy part of the dress, then started working on the chest part, because I split it. So I didn't know, the dress looks like it's one piece, but I couldn't figure out how to do it and have it flow as well as I wanted it to. So I made the skirt using a pattern I've always used, and then I did the high-low cut in it by myself, horrified because I had no more fabric. So, and by the end of January I was unemployed, so I couldn't really go out and buy another, I think I had 7 or 8 yards of fabric for this cosplay because I didn't know how much I actually needed. So about the end of January, I started working on the chest binding, which was just a 4 or 5 inch wide piece that just went around my chest. And then I think the skirt started just above my waistline. So I started that, and then I got that figured out, connected it to the skirt, and then tried putting my zipper in. Messed up a couple of times, took it out, tried it again. It was rolling weird as it went down, so I took it out again, put it in again, and that's when I noticed it was off-centered, and I have, for the life of me, no clue how it happened. The only thing I can think of is when I was sewing, because I don't have a zipper foot, I have a regular sewing foot. I took the actual foot off, so it was just the needle going down, which helps, but it doesn't hold things steady at all. So I think when I was putting the zipper in, I was pulling really tightly on the left side if you're looking at the back of the zipper, so it shifted in that direction. I don't know, I just know it was off-centered. And that was at the end of January. Beginning of February, cons in March, I started working on my veil, realizing, I think it was something, I actually forgot about it until I happened to look at the reference picture, and I realized that I needed to do my veil. And it was hard because there was only one shot of this picture, this dress. So I had no other clue how to do the veil, because it looked like it was layered and then ruffled around her ears. It looked like a whole thing, and I just couldn't handle it. So I started cutting out shapes, because I had a bunch of fabric I wasn't using for it. Got a shape I liked, layered it, and then I put off dyeing everything. Because the veil, there was a butterfly and this trail loincloth looking thing that went in the front that all needed to be dyed pink. So I put that off, and then I started working on the butterfly and the trail. Butterfly was a pain in the ass, looking back now. Yep, really was. The trail I absolutely love, and that's one of my favorite pieces on this entire cosplay. I actually used to make the trail, because it comes down and then it comes into like a point. I used a pattern that you would use to make the tails of a bow and have it be in that pointed shape. I just cut it on a fold, so when I opened it, it was that nice, crisp point. Perfect. The butterfly, I cut out 2 patterns, or 2 shapes, after printing off silhouettes, is what they were, of butterflies and enhancing them to kind of like fill my chest. Because the butterfly was full, but it was weird looking, and as long as I could have a base shape, I can morph it how I need it to. And I cut out 2 so I could layer them, and then it needed bias tape around the edges, so I was just going to layer them because it needed to be painted, and then there was these triangle gems that needed to be put on them, so I figured if I do that, it'd be reinforced, it wouldn't fall apart on me. That was my thought process. Well, one of the butterflies, I cut the wings, and then I cut into the center a bit, and then came out for the bottom wings. Poor choice on my part. But it looked like, by the drawing, that's what it looked like. So I struggled with this thing, dyed it, dyed the trail, dyed my veil, and then started bias taping them all, except for the veil. The veil was just being rolled hem. And I got the butterfly partway bias taped and decided that this was a piece of shit. I was not liking at all how anything of this was coming out. And if I was going to be judged, I would not want to go in front of them with that piece. So I threw it away, got the other piece, what was going to be the back to my original butterfly, rushed ordered a new dye packet because I couldn't find it at any of my local stores here. I got it the weekend before con. So I was re-dyeing this 5 days before we left for the convention. Re-dyed this butterfly. What was I doing? I jumped around a bit, but while I re-dyed everything, I was hemming everything. So while I was waiting for that butterfly, I did it first thing in the morning, and so I was waiting for it to dry. And because I was so afraid the color would change if I altered the dye bath at all, I did exactly how I did the other pieces. It was a huge waste of the dye, but I was so afraid if I cut everything in half. And it's not like you can reuse dye anyways. So I did everything the same way. Hung it up to dry, and while that was drying, I hemmed my skirt. I did the bias tape around the top of the dress. I did the straps that go up around her neck. I was cutting out the drapes that go around her sides that needed to be beaded. And then she has these arm dangles that attach to the front of the dress and then to something in the back, and I have no clue what. So I was doing that as well while this is drying. So, and then I did the headdress as well, because it's got loops, the drapes as well. So while that was drying, I decided to start beading everything. And I mean everything. Everything had a bead on it. The headdress, the arm drapes down here, the drapes that go, the cording that goes around the side of her, the trail that comes down to a fine point had beads along the bottom. So after I bias taped that, I beaded it. And the butterfly got dried. I bias taped that. Oh, while I was doing all of that, I remembered that she had a necklace. Completely forgot. So I used what little left cording I had. And it was literally, the cording I was using was bathing suit cording. So it was a really soft material. It was really nice to work with. But I didn't have a lot left, so I was panicking. Because, I mean, I don't have the skinniest of necks, let's be honest. But it came pretty much all the way around my neck to about that far. Which was perfect, because then I just did pinching clasps and hooks, and it was done. So I beaded that on top of the arm drapes and everything else. No, come back. Yeah, so once everything was bias taped, I hand sewed the drapes, the cording. I hand sewed the loincloth trail thingy that goes in the front. And then on top of that, I put the butterfly, so it hid all of the hand stitching. And the butterfly, I also hand stitched on to the front of my dress. I feel like I did a pretty good job. But there was no way in freaking hell I was putting that through my sewing machine, because it was a lot of fabric, and I felt like I could just do it better if I hand stitched it. Plus I was going through bias tape, and we had already broken one needle from my sewing machine. I didn't want to break another. So I hand stitched it. And then did all of that. And then I painted all the lines in the butterfly. And I should make note that the veil, the butterfly, and the trail loincloth thingy was all dip dyed by hand, which I'd never done before. So, yay! So it looked really cool once I had the white lines on it, but I literally could not mess up because I had no more fabric. I had literally no time to order a new dye packet. I had literally no time for any mess ups. So literally I'm hand sketching all of this detail while I'm praying to God that I don't mess up. And I'm doing all with pencil, and then I went over it with a white pen marker, and that's how I did all my lines. Let that dried, and I started doing all my little triangles down the front of my trail loincloth thingy. I really have no clue what it's called. Drape, whatever, I don't know. So while I was doing that, I did then, while that was drying, I did the butterfly, because I had beads on the triangles on the inside and surrounding some of the wings outside. So I did all of that, and then I want to say it was right before, it's like Monday or Tuesday, I think it was. I remembered that she has no shoes, so she essentially walks around barefoot. And I had nude colored flats I was gonna walk around the con in, but I had bought the stuff to make the invisible shoes to be judged in. So I've never made them before. I made the most crappiest version of them ever to be judged in. They were so bad, it wasn't even funny. But I got men clear inserts, male clear inserts. Cut them to the shape of my foot because I was so afraid the women's were not going to be large enough. Cut slits in them, as a tutorial I found online said to. And I did it around my middle toe instead of my big toe. And I had bought in thick, clear, invisible bra straps to do all of this. So I got those, and then I was going to do a strap that went like around the front of my ankle to help kind of secure it, or around the top of my foot. I hadn't quite figured out that part yet. Couldn't figure that one out. Plus I was running out of invisible bra straps because I kept miscutting things because I'm intelligent. So I ended up just doing the toe. And I was like, if I don't walk too far and if I don't walk fast, I'll be fine. So I super glued them, and then I had gotten a special glue that is good for fabrics, to glue onto fabrics. Highly recommend it. I did it with all my triangles, and I was not kind to my cosplay walking around the convention, bending, twisting, jumping, spinning. I didn't lose a single bead. So this glue is amazing. If you're gonna glue stuff onto fabric, highly recommend it. Plus it glues fast. So you kind of have to be quick and precise when you place things, but it will adhere almost immediately, and then you can tweak how you need things. My super glue was not drying fast enough, and it was like Wednesday night. We were leaving Red Eye Thursday night to get there in Boston by like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock Friday morning. So I put a bunch of this fabric glue down, covered it with extra fabric that I wasn't using, put my iron on it so I had a nice compress on it, peeked at it Thursday morning before I left for work, because I worked before we left, and it was perfect. Everything was dried, it was really secure, so I was like, thank God. Left for work, came back, made sure I packed everything. Me and Jen ran through everything, make sure we had all of our pieces, make sure we weren't missing anything, no jewelry, no shoe, no wig caps. I almost forgot my wig caps. Make sure we had all of our makeup, all of our different colors for each character, all that good jazz. And then we left for the airport. Judging was awesome this year. I loved judging this year. I had done it 2 years prior with Caitlin and Amy, and the judges sat behind a table taking notes. Not once did they approach any of us, not once did they check our seams. They judged us solely on how we were presented. Grossly upset me, because I had made all of our cosplay that year. So this year, they actually were sitting in a semicircle. You walk in, and they all stand up and approach you. And they all just came up and they're like, do you mind being touched? And I'm like, no, not at all. Please, go right ahead. So they asked you questions, and how did you make this? How did you do this? How did you do that? All that kind of good jazz. They asked how I dyed all of my pieces and told them I hand dip dyed everything. Hadn't done that before, was horrified. One of them noticed I had my invisible shoes on. So I told her yes, because the image has invisible shoes, so I made invisible shoes. Hadn't done that before, so cool beans on that. Never really styled a wig on my own, so I was telling them about that. And that was a process and a half. But it was cool, because my veil, actually, backtracking a little bit, I had sewed my veil onto these finger clips, which I thought I had up here to show you, but I do not. So I sewed them onto that, so I could essentially just wedge them into my wig and have them catch my wig cap. So on top of them, I did what looked like Tsubasa wings. I don't even think they were. They were just animated wings, anime wings, or something like that, wings. I found on Etsy. Score! Freaking love Etsy. It saved my ass so many times. I sewed my veil onto those clips, or finger combs, and then sewed the feathers onto that. All I did by hand. The hardest part getting into this cosplay was figuring out where those clips needed to go in my wig, because the drapes I had went perfectly around them. So that was a process and a half. I have so many photos of us trying to place it just right. It's not even funny. And then you get this email after convention from Lindsay, and I believe his name is Brian, who helps her, that if you want the judges' notes, you have to give your number that you were. They'll pull it from the records and you can have them. Score! So, like I said in the beginning, it was not really anything new I knew I needed to work on. So I'm actually already thinking about competing again this year for 2018, which we're not quite there yet. So I suppose it's still next year. Anyways, because I want to work on the things they said I needed to work on. Cool, I can do that. So, but they seemed overall impressed with my outfit as Sakura. When I walked in, they took my reference photo and then placed it on the table and then didn't touch it again. But when I walked in, one of the judges were like, "Oh my god, I need a photo," and took a photo of me. So at the end of my judging, they handed back my reference photo and said that they had an image of me. I was good to go. I was like, okay, if you say so. Overall, I think it went pretty well. I'm definitely not going to start late this year. We're doing, Amy and I, potentially, will be cosplaying the light and dark cards and competing. And the light and dark cards are from Cardcaptor Sakura. Yay. So hopefully I can show them that I've grown and that I can do this properly. We'll see. I'm really hoping I do a really good job, but I'm hoping not to start as late as November. So we'll see, but I have to get through DCC this year. Which is in July. It's the first weekend of July. We'll see how things go, and hopefully I keep you guys better updated.